that very end loss, but they still kind of finished the season on a strong note. But I know, why don't we kind of break down these last couple games? I mean, what did you see from Arizona against Washington and that game against Oregon this past week?
Yeah, I saw a really unmotivated team in those last two games, unlike the following three games as they were going into that Washington game where they won by 1 point. They yeah, they were on a two-game winning streak, and they beat USC at USC, one of their probably their best victory of the season. And coming into that game, I think they just were a little too confident. I mean, against Washington, I mean they beat Washington State, but Washington, they they just didn't look motivated to get the job done. I mean, they were 13.5 point favorites and won the game by 1 point. And I thought they were going to lose the game for a little bit of that second half. I mean, they just haven't been shooting the ball well, and that's what I've been harping on the whole season. And in that game they shot the ball under 40% from the field and from 3 point land. They shot the ball 29% on 3 point jump shots and only hit 8 of them. I've been saying this so long, but you can't win if you're hitting 8 threes.
Yeah, I think the Arizona won that game against Washington, but I think we all expected that. However, I don't think anyone expected that game to be so close, right? Like you said, they only won that game by 1 point. And they were winning for a pretty good margin of that game for most of the second half. But I mean, a win is a win. Honestly, I thought the Wildcats showed a lot of heart in that game, at least late in the game. I know we were talking about earlier; they didn't look like it, but I think towards the end of the game, when that lead started to get a little bit closer and it shrunk down a little bit, I thought they played with a lot of heart. And I mean, Azuolas Tubelis, man, I mean, just another great performance from him in that game against Washington. I mean, he had 16 points, 15 rebounds, and of course, he had that clutch three-pointer from the corner on that final play of the game that put Arizona ahead and ended up winning that game. But that final play was just so good because, I mean, they attacked the basket and they forced the defense to scramble and really help out on Akinjo's drive to the paint. That help came from the strong side and it left Tubelis wide open in the corner. So, just to kind of see that kind of play was really nice. When you attack the paint, it causes defense to scramble and, potentially create either an open shot or, free throws. In this case, it was the open shot. But it was just nice to see because I feel like a lot of the final plays that Arizona was making weren't really, plays like that. They were settling for a lot of jump shots, a lot of, contested, low percentage shots for the final play of the game. So it was nice to see, a more successful final play of the game. But yeah, I mean, just to Azuolas Tubelis, like I really do want to touch up on him a little bit here. Just a great game from him and just a great season from him. We mentioned a bunch of times about him being Arizona's most consistent player all season, and he really is that. And he was all that and more against Washington. And I think the best part about Tubelis in his season is that he's probably going to come back next year. I mean, which is huge for this team. Like I haven't seen any mock drafts that have him getting taken. So, which honestly, I don't think is fair to Tubelis. I think he's proven a few times, that he can, produce at the NBA level. So I think the fact that he's coming back and all signs are pointing towards him coming back is really huge for this team.
Yeah, along with him playing a great game against Washington, a guy off the bench who I want to touch on, who I've been hard on all season, was Christian Koloko. He was very aggressive on the offensive end. I mean, he only had like 1 rebound, 1 block, but he had 11 points and 5 for 6 from the field, which is one of his best of the season. And I think maybe his most points, if I'm not wrong, of the season. And he was just great. He looked like he wanted to score. He wanted to get going early, which was great to see. But the last guy I want to touch on was James Akinjo. I think it was that had to be in his best 3 games of the Wildcat. He had 27 points. He was 5 for 6 from 3. I mean, I keep saying he's a low percentage shooter, and that is literally as good as you get. And I mean, and as you mentioned, they were great late in the game. Another thing I have been like saying that Sean Miller is never good at calling good late plays in the game, but I mean, it just sucks that the opposite happened in that Oregon game.
Yeah, what exactly did you see in that Oregon game? Because I feel like Oregon is, for me, I think Oregon is just such a bad matchup for Arizona. Like they have so many big dudes on that team, and just Arizona just doesn't have those guys that can guard big guards like Chris Duarte. Like there were some where Terrell Brown, I don't think is a bad defender, but he's undersized. So when he goes up against those big guards slash forwards, he's gonna get smacked around every time, right? Like, Duarte was just there's just nobody on this roster that can guard Chris Duarte. And I think there's just a lot of guys on that team, and I didn't really expect a win in that game. But it's just a bad matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, along with Duarte, just they had three players with three or more three-pointers, and especially in this first few minutes of the second half, they started to break the game open. Then Arizona came back a little later, but I mean, they were 12 for 22 from deep, 54%. That's just hard to win when a team's doing that. And again, when the Wildcats hit 8 threes, 16 in 2 games, another game under 35% from three, and they were just struggling. I mean, that I actually was surprised how that I don't know how they kept it. Arizona did keep it close up until really half. I mean, but I just think they were overmatched. I mean, after the Oregon close loss a few weeks ago, and earlier in the season against Arizona, I've been saying they're the best team in the Pac-12, and I think they showed once again they can. And they're not just Pac-12 contenders; they're March Madness contenders to win the championship and win it all. I mean, they have it all: size, skill, shooting. I mean, but with Arizona, I mean, no production off the bench, zero. They like all these guys, just Dalen Terry and Terrell Brown just got back to what they normally do. Nothing. I mean, Dalen Terry, I was saying he was playing good, and then he had 2 straight games, only making 1 basket. I mean, that's just not good enough. You can't win games like that. I mean, Akinjo was good, 19 and 8. I mean, but no one else really. You can't have like 3 starters not get two. They had 2 starters not get 8 points, and then 3 starters neither above 10. So you can't win like that.
Yeah,